Welcome to the best YouTube channel for your listening module preparation. We upload authentic listening tests which keeps repeating in the exam again and again. Make sure to subscribe and take membership to support our channel. Listening, Section 1. Read the questions provided in the booklet carefully after reading the instructions. First, we will start with questions 1 to 10. Pay attention to the keywords and answer accordingly.
Part 1.
You will hear John and Joan talking about their new school. Look at questions 1 to 5 on the form now. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hi, John. How's it going?
Pretty good. What about you?
Terrific. So what do you think of our new school?
A1, man. Much better than the old one. In fact, I'm going to write an article for the London Times about it.
Really?
Yeah. Have you got half an hour? Maybe you should give me some ideas.
If you buy me a coffee.
No problem. How do you think I should start? Introduce the headmaster?
Why don't you compare it with the old one? You know, the buildings, laboratories, language lab, computer equipment, fitness center, pool, stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I mean, the old one was pretty bad, and the new headmaster seems like a great guy. Actually, all the teachers I've met seem pretty decent.
Same here. The French teacher is really cool, and he's actually French, not like Smith at the old place. He sounded less French than even you do.
Hey, my accent is perfect.
Dream on. But why don't you start with what the headmaster told us school this morning, you know, his ideas on education and things?
Yeah, I liked that. None of that stuff about how we must study hard for our futures in the honor of the school. There's no free lunch, that type of thing. He sounds pretty progressive. What did he say? If we teachers succeed in stimulating your minds, stimulating you to ask questions and think critically, then you will discover the joy of learning, enjoy your studies, and therefore work hard.
Hey, what a memory. Those were his exact words. Do you remember what he said next?
Something about it's good to keep fit.
Yeah. Do you remember him mentioning those experiments showing that after half an hour of exercise, our brains are much more creative for hours?
And puts you in a better mood. Did you see the fitness center?
Look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen to more of the conversation between John and Joan and answer questions 6 to 10.
I went early this morning for a workout. Fantastic. Olympic-sized pool, not like that tiny 25-meter thing we had before. And the gym has absolutely everything. I counted 10 exercise bikes, some rowing machines, really good ones. Are you gonna go?
I've been every other day for 2 weeks. Feel great. Hey, maybe I should interview some of the teachers and students from my article.
Of course you should. Wow, just thought of it. I'm doing a video project. Maybe I could film the interviews.
Makes sense. And I could take a few photos. Maybe the newspaper would use 1 or 2 of them. The main hall is awesome. Really light, lots of windows, and a huge stage, big enough for a 60 or 70 person orchestra.
Did you see Mr. Clark, the old music teacher? I think he's the only teacher here from the old school.
He is, and he was the only decent teacher. I met him in the hall. He's really happy, planning to double the size of the school orchestra. It's great.
Okay, let's plan what we're going to do.
That is the end of Part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 1.
Listening Section 2. Answer the questions carefully after reading the instructions. Now we will start with questions 11 to 20. Pay attention to the keywords and answer accordingly.
Recording 52. You will hear a project manager talking to voluntary workers about the tasks that need to be done. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14.
Good morning. It's great to see so many people here. Thank you all very much for coming. Well, as you know, the community gardens at Hadley Park are really not looking as good as they should. Quite bad, really. And although the local council has a budget to deal with some of the problems, we do need volunteers for other tasks. If you don't mind, I'm going to divide you into 2 groups. So everyone on this side of the room is Group A, and the rest of you are Group B. So, Group A, there are a couple of things we'd like you to help with. First of all, don't worry about any litter or empty bottles you see lying about. One of the local schools has offered to help out with that as part of their own environmental project. The priority for you will be to give us a hand with the new wooden fencing. It needs constructing along parts of the bicycle track, as there are parts which have now fallen down or broken, as I'm sure you've seen. You've probably also noticed that some of the pathways that come from the bicycle track are quite narrow, and there are plans to make them wider, but the council will be dealing with that later in the year. And they've also promised to produce some informational signs about the plants in the gardens. Hopefully, they'll be up in a few weeks' time. The other thing we're doing is getting rid of some of the foreign species that are growing in the gardens and putting back some native plants and trees. So you'll be doing some digging for us and getting those into the ground. So, Group A, there's some items you'll need to bring along with you. I was going to say raincoats, but the forecast has changed, so you can leave those at home. I'd definitely recommend a strong pair of boots. Waterproof would be best. It's quite muddy at the moment, and your own gloves would also be advisable. Tools will be available, spades and hammers, that kind of thing. You just need to make sure they go back in the trucks. And, there's no need to worry about food and drink, as we'll be supplying sandwiches and coffee, possibly some biscuits even.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you will have some time to look at the questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
OK, Group B, your turn. Does everyone have a copy of the plan? Oh, great. OK. We'll all be meeting in the car park. That's on the bottom of the plan. See? Now, if you've been assigned to the vegetable beds, to get there, you go out of the car park and go up the footpath until you reach the circle of trees. There they are, in the middle of the plan. And you see that the footpath goes all the way around them. Well, on the left-hand side of that circular footpath, there's a short track which takes you directly to the vegetable beds. You can see a bamboo fence marked just above them. All right? OK, if you're helping out with the beehives, pay attention. Look again at the circle of trees in the middle of the plan and the footpath that goes around them. On the right side of that circle, you can see that the footpath goes off in an easterly direction, heading towards the right-hand side of the plan. And then the path splits into two, and you can either go up or down. You want the path that heads down. And at the end of this, you see two areas divided by a bamboo fence. And as we're looking at the plan, the beehives are on the right of the fence. The smaller section, I mean. Now, don't worry, all the bees have been removed. You just need to transport the hives back to the car park. OK, for the seating, look at the circular footpath. At the top of it, there's a path that goes from there and takes you up to the seating area, alongside the bicycle track, and with a good view of the island, I suppose. OK, if you're volunteering for the adventure playground area, let's start from the car park again and go up the footpath, but then you want the first left turn. Go up there, and then you see there's a short path that goes off to the right. Go down there, and that's the adventure playground area, above the bamboo fence. That fence does need repairing, I'm afraid. Right, what else? Oh yes, the sand area. We've got that circular footpath in the middle. Find the track that goes east, towards the right-hand side of the plan, and where that track divides, you need the little path that goes up towards the bicycle track. The sand area is just above the bamboo fence there. And finally, the pond area. So it's on the left-hand side of your plan, towards the top, just above the fruit bushes and to the left of the little path. OK, as I said already, hopefully we'll be...
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3.
Listening Section 3. Answer the questions carefully after reading the instructions. Now we will start with questions 21 to 30. Pay attention to the keywords and answer accordingly.
Part 3. You will hear two students named Joy and Tim discussing their classroom management project. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi, Tim. I thought you'd never get here. We still have so much of our classroom management project to complete. I don't know how we'll get it done.
Take it easy, Joy. Our results for this course won't be high enough if we rush to finish. It's our final assignments for the semester. We don't have any other projects to do, so we can focus on this.
I'm not worried about my results, but we need to finish it because part of the project is to implement the results of our research and make the classroom a better learning environment. If we don't start soon, we'll run out of time. You know, the semester will finish next month.
That's true. What do you think of the theory chapter in our textbook? I don't think we should bother with it.
Are you saying that because you find the theory in that chapter too difficult to understand, or is the chapter just too long?
Neither. My real issue is that it doesn't have much bearing on the subject we're researching. Our project is on classroom management, not on company structuring.
There are parallels, though. We're learning about management and structure for careers in business management. This classroom-based project is just a training ground.
Maybe. Anyway, last time we were considering the benefits of a discussion board in each home group room. What have you come up with?
The role of the discussion board is for sharing ideas. Each of us can learn from what others have done before us. I thought instead of the students merely stating what textbooks they think will be beneficial, it would be more useful to document what they've already studied and the reactions they had to the material.
In that way, others can find books that will further their own research. That's great.
What about you? How have you been getting on with your analysis of classroom structure?
I've been thinking about what we should discuss in our essay on that topic. The teacher's role has been discussed in previous research papers, as has the important relationship between teachers and their students. But I haven't come across much research on the place an individual student holds in the classroom. So this is what I want to talk about.
That could be a controversial topic. The roles have slowly evolved. Traditionally, the teacher dominated the classroom. Now the general idea is that the teacher is a mentor to guide students' learning rather than telling them what to do.
I agree. It places the students on a more equal footing with the teacher, so the students have more respect for their teachers. Should we conduct interviews with the teachers regarding this developing interaction? It's not required that we do it. We could interview the students instead.
I was considering it, but I think it may be difficult for many of the teachers to find the time. I tried to have a discussion with some of the professors, but they were all tied up with marking the first-year students' exam papers and suggested I come back in a week or so.
If that's the case, we'd better not bother them. Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen carefully and answer questions 26 to 30. What about this last research question about the factors that contribute to successful learning outcomes?
Well, obviously, classroom management comes into it. I think for students, it's impossible to gain the full benefits of studying without it. In fact, I'd say it is the single most important factor of success in learning.
I agree, but I think feedback is pretty important too. There has to be a real dialogue going on between teachers and students, and constructive criticism is essential to students' progress and development.
True, and I've been thinking about the shift in roles in recent years, but the essentials are still the same. For instance, effective lesson planning is pretty fundamental. Teachers have the responsibility to do it properly.
I agree. That is a requirement for every teacher. I believe that each student learns at his or her own pace. Some students may need individual tutoring. I think it should be a matter of choice, though, as it doesn't work well for everyone.
You are right. I'd like to see more supervision in the lab too. Some of the students need a lot more help than they're getting.
Yes, that's true. And it would also be beneficial if students had more access to technology. Nowadays, students and teachers can use few simple clicks with a computer to finish something that might take them hours or even days in the past.
I agree. Even though funding technology can be expensive, it pays in the long run.
I am not sure. We can record it in our research, though, as a recommendation. That is the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 3.
Section 4. You will hear part of a lecture about time measurement. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk about the research project I've been involved in on time measurement. Do you know how time is measured? Consider how we measure length and how, with time, we encounter a difficulty. Before we could grasp it, it would slip through our fingers. In fact, as we can see, we are forced to have the resource to measure something else, the movement of something in space or a set of movements in space. All the methods that have been employed so far really measure time by a motion in space. The measurement of time is no easy matter, a scientific unit only arrived at after much thought and reflection. As the most primitive form of measurement, the sun seems to be natural. Ever since man first noticed the regular movements of the sun and stars, we have wondered about the passage of time. Prehistoric people first recorded time according to the sun's position. To start off, let us take noon, which is when the sun is on the meridian at the highest point of its course across the heavens, and when it casts the shortest shadow. But this measurement, which was regarded as a major one in ancient times, was less important than the natural events that occurred. The earliest natural events that had been recognized were in the heavens, But during the course of the year, there were many other events that indicated significant changes in the environment. Seasonal winds and rains, the flooding of rivers, the flowering of trees and plants, and the breeding cycles or migration of animals all led to natural divisions of the year, and the further observation and local customs led to the recognition of the seasons. Years later, precise measurements were invented because the passage of time was extremely important for astronomers and priests who were responsible for determining the exact hour for daily rituals and for important religious festivals. Apart from the connection with religion, accurate time measurement was also related to the government, since they divided the day or the night into different periods in order to regulate work and various events. For thousands of years, devices had been used to measure and keep track of time. The current sexagesimal system of time measurement dates back to approximately 2000 BCE from the Sumerians. It was found that the earliest ancient timekeepers were mainly invented and used in Mesopotamia, where the water clock was introduced from, as well as in North Africa, especially in the area of ancient Egypt. So, now I'd like to introduce you to some of the most well-known ancient timekeepers, as well as the disadvantages of them, for which they were replaced by various new forms of clocks that were used afterwards. A sundial is a device that tells the time of day by the apparent positioning of the sun in the sky. In the narrowest sense of the word, it consists of a flat plate and a gnomon which casts a shadow onto the dial. As the sun appears to move across the sky, the shadow aligns with different hour lines which are marked on the dial to indicate the time of day. However, it was quickly noted that the length of the day varied at different times of the year. Therefore, there could have been a difference between clock time and sundial time. In addition, the sundial was of no use at night, so a water clock was invented. The water clock, or clepsydra, appeared to have been invented around 1500 BCE and was a device which relied on the steady flow of water from or into a container. Measurements could be marked on the container or on a receptacle for the water. It was reliable, but the water flow still depended on the variation of pressure and temperature from the top of water in the container. As the technology of glass blowing developed, from some time in the 14th century, it became possible to make sand glasses. Originally, they were used as a measurement for periods of time like lamps or candles. But as clocks became more accurate, they were calibrated to measure specific periods of time. The drawback, however, as you can imagine, was the limited length of time they could measure. The last timekeeper to be introduced is the fire candle clock. Candle clocks took advantage of a simple concept, the slow and consistent nature of a burning wax candle. By utilizing this process, our ancestors were able to keep steady track of the time. The clocks were created by engraving the length of the candle with evenly spaced markings. Each marking represented a single unit of time, and as the wax burned down, each hour would disappear. However, the drafts and the variable quality of the wax mainly influenced the time of burning. Like oil lamps, candles were used to mark the passage of time from one event to another rather than tell the time of day. That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.